Welcome to Inkscape for Teachers. In this tutorial we're going to look at producing sine and cosine curves using the bezier tool. So I'll open a blank canvas, and the first thing I'm going to do is view the grid. So if I go view page grid, you can adjust this in settings, but I'll assume you can do that okay yourself. I think I've got mine set to about 1 centimetre. Now what I'm going to do is choose the bezier tool and ensure I've got snap to grid on. That's this icon up here, and I'm just going to click, then move say 1, 2 across and 2 up perhaps, and then control drag until the handles snap 1 centimetre. Then I'm going to go 2 more across and click, then 2 more across and 2 down and click, control, drag 1 centimetre. Then finish up, click and enter to conclude. And that gives me a pretty good sine curve. It looks pretty much like a sine curve to me. Under the stroke style, you can find that under the fill and stroke toolbox. Control Shift F. I'm just going to change that to 0.5, enter, thicken that up a bit, give it a red colour, shift for changing the stroke colour, so shift and click red, there we go. I'm going to hide the grid now, I don't need that anymore, so view, take off the tick from page grid. I might thicken that up, it looks a bit thin there by itself now, so I might change that to 0.7. Okay, so there's a pretty good sine curve that we can use to produce graphs and so forth. Now just one tip, you might think you might need a few more periods than this, so if you click Control D to duplicate, we can drag along, hold down Control to consign it to horizontal or vertical movements. You'll see it snap together, and I can even do one more, Control D, and Control key held down, move along till it snaps, and we've got 3 cycles. Now if I group that together, that makes it easier to drag around as one piece. Now you might be tempted to, if you want to play around with amplitude and period, to shrink up graphs like so, or extend them like that, but you can probably even see there that I've distorted the stroke somehow. This is a bit of a quirk in Inkscape. If I control to zoom in, you see that's not a uniform stroke, so that's quite annoying. And the way around that, I'll just zoom out again, and I'll control Z back to what I had. If you do want to compress or stretch the height of the sine curve, do it before you group it. So I'll control click, just pick one element of that, and control C, control V, just to produce a copy. Now I'm going to stretch it quite significantly, and you can see it hasn't distorted at the top here, even if I shrink it down that way. If I zoom in on this area here, the stroke is now uniform. So it's a little bit of an annoyance, but do the scaling on the one cycle that you drew, or when you do the original drawing you could go in for more cycles. Now if I click what's already clicked on, click on it, Control D to duplicate, Control to drag along, snap, Control duplicate, Control and drag along, snap. I'll do one more, Control duplicate, Control drag along, one more, marquee around the lot, Control G to group, Shift and blue to change the stroke, and zoom in a bit. I think that's the original scaling. So you can see I've got a couple of sine graphs that look pretty accurate. If I wanted a cosine graph, I'll just control click to pick that part of the red group. Again, Control C, Control V. It's an interesting exercise in itself. Now if I wanted the traditional cosine graph to start from a maximum, I need to cut the curve here. So I'll click the nodes tool, I'll press N, click that particular node and select break apart, or break path at selected nodes. Now if you try to break that, it's still connected, another minor annoyance in Inkscape, but while that's selected, if we go path, break apart, then we can drag this bit over here. In fact, we can join it on. You see that proves that the cosine graph is the same period as the sine graph, just started from a different place. Again, if I select all of that, then the nodes tool, and I'm going to drag around that node to join it permanently. Here's the join selected nodes, and now if I drag it, it's all one piece. Again, if I was going to scale that, do it before you produce several more periods, for example like that, then control duplicate, control to move along, and so forth. Now I can group it, change the colour if I want. I'll pick yellow, shift yellow. If it's a bit hard to see, you can look under the stroke and fill menu, control shift F, and under the fill, saying the paint is undefined. Not sure. Oh, control Z. Sorry, it's not the fill, it's the stroke paint. And I'll just pick another colour. You can drag the. I think you just click. Yep. And then you can drag the opacity to darker, whatever you want to do. I generally find it a bit easy to use the not the colour wheel, but the RG, but not the RG, the HSL tab. Then I just pick a slightly more orange colour there, and for the saturation I'll drag it right up. Maybe change the luminosity to try and make it a bit more apparent. But you can fiddle around with those colours to your heart's content. If I control the mouse wheel in, you can see that I've got quite a few good sine and cosine curves without having to put it into a graphing program, just using the simple Bezier tool. That completes this tutorial. Once again, thanks for watching.